Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:37 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Mary Walter, KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst. Brett Baer, anchor with Special Report, Fox News Channel, joins us now. Good morning, Brett. How are you?
Good morning.
Hey, we haven't talked to you since your trip to Afghanistan. I'm curious as to how it was, what you learned, and what did you take away?
Sure. Yeah, it was a quick trip on the ground for 2 days, but I had a great experience getting around with the military. A couple of thoughts. One is when General Petraeus says they're making headway militarily, that's really what they're seeing on the ground. I went to a lot of different meetings in a lot of different places, including with Afghans, and they are seeing in the south, in the Helmand and Kandahar provinces, a real change in the atmosphere. 13 months after that battle for Marja, the Marines engaged in, that place is completely different. There is still a lot of violence, and there are still a lot of Taliban fighters that are flowing across the border from Pakistan. That's one of the main problems, is Pakistan and what they're saying out of both sides of their mouths. I think, to make a general assessment that things are heading in the right direction is fair. There's a lot to go, and really, as we saw in Iraq, it comes down to the clocks on the wall. And if there's enough time before 2014 to really step up these security environments like they have in the South.
And Brett, this is KT McFarland. Did you get a sense when you were there about the frustration that people are having with the Karzai government, that militarily we're making enormous progress and strides and training the Afghan National Army, but yet when it comes down to the crunch time, the government isn't there to follow through? Yeah,
I think there is a frustration. I asked General Petraeus about that both publicly and privately, and he said, listen, we have a situation where and by the way, that's my 3.5-year-old in the back.
Quite all right. It's quite all right.
It's not Hamid Karzai. It's my own little Hamid Karzai.
I know
running around the house. So, yes, there is a frustration, and he told me that this relationship is much like the Maliki relationship at some of its tough times in Iraq. And you could see that. However, KT, I think you know that the embassy really doesn't have a relationship with the Afghan government. I mean, it's pretty dysfunctional at best.
When you say that they're heading in the right direction, which is great news, Americans want to hear that because we have so much invested in Afghanistan. But yet these people have never lived under a democracy, at least what Americans view as a democracy. What form of government do you really see ultimately being there? Are we going to really see a true democracy?
I mean, that's a great question. I think it's going to be Afghanistan's version, like it's Iraq's version. And you're right. This is a different place. I mean, it's operated in a tribal mentality. Each one of these places has its own environment, and really the country is much different in the South than it is in the East. Different cultures, different ideas about things. So the security situation from Petraeus' point of view has to be from the bottom up. It has to be this local buy-in that with the security comes prosperity.
And this is KT again, Brett. Switching gears, Libya. Are you getting? What are you picking up? What's going to happen? When's it going to happen? And who's going to do it?
Yeah, a lot, KT. I'm hearing that it could be a busy day today and into tomorrow, and that the initial, perhaps, bombardment might come from the French or the British.
Right.
But we are going to be heavily involved. In fact, largely the most involved. You're talking about, as you know, a no-fly zone that you have to start by taking out the anti-aircraft facilities and the command and control as well. And so you're going to see in the first hours here, whenever it starts, and it may be very soon, a serious bombardment of Libya. And I'm hearing Sigonella Air Force Base, Air Base is you can hear the engines.
Right. What about Aviano in Italy?
Aviano.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about...
I mean, this is going to happen in a couple of hours then, presumably.
Yeah. You're talking about, 70 planes probably, F-15.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
At least. Then you have 5 refueling tankers. You have AWACS. You've got a lot of hard assets And remember, this is the third Muslim country
we are
that we're going to
invading,
be engaged in currently.
Yeah.
And but the question, I guess, is even the bigger one: is what then? What's next? What after the bombings happen?
Well, I mean, I think that Defense Secretary Rumsfeld used to always say, the war plan changes dramatically the second it starts, and you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of question marks as far as what does Gaddafi relent. There's no indication that he's going to do
Right.
that. There's still bombing in Benghazi, the rebel-held town in the east, and do we get through without any incident?
You mean like civilian casualties
exactly.
and collateral
the second
damage?
You take out some wedding party. Does the Arab League leave you?
Right.
There's a lot of questions.
And then the other thing you really worry about is with Afghanistan, with Iraq, is once you topple the dictator. These are 3-act plays. You topple the dictator, and then what comes next?
Yeah.
And is that the United States and mission creep?
Sure. And I talked to some people. There's a law firm here that is in town that's going to represent the opposition, whatever the opposition is. But I talked to them, and they said that a lot of the leaders of the Libyan government, including the ambassador to the UN,
right.
the foreign minister, have left Gaddafi, and they are trying to form this, whatever it is, opposition. But, they've been bombarded for days, so you don't know how long they have.
Why now? Is it because the Arab League essentially gave the okay for this? Is that why it took this long to get to this point?
Well, the U.S. wanted this umbrella. They wanted Arab League buy-in, but that more importantly, they wanted a United Nations resolution.
Yeah.
And is there any talk about China and Russia abstaining from this vote?
Yeah, they consider that a win.
To not be a veto. Yeah.
They didn't
Right.
veto it, so they abstained. From everything I heard, the administration and Susan Rice, the ambassador to the UN, was exalting the ability to have 5 abstentions and 10 yes votes.
Not to sound callous, but is this worth it to the U.S. to expand into Libya now?
Well, that's a great question. A really great question. And I think that lawmakers up on Capitol Hill are asking that nonstop. We saw a hearing yesterday that really was one of the most contentious hearings I've seen on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, grilling Undersecretary of State Burns about this. And 2 things. One is, finally you get this resolution, and finally you're going to do a no-fly zone. Is it too late? 1. And 2, what are U.S. interests here? What exactly is more important about Libya than it is about Bahrain,
Right.
say? Arguably,
Bahrain's more important.
Yep.
Way more important.
Yes.
All right, it's going to be a busy day for you, it sounds like, so we'll let you get to it. And thank you very much for your time. We always appreciate it, Brett.
Have a good one.
Brett Bayer, Anchor Special Report, Fox News Channel here on the Morning Majority.